Okay, you ready to see the answers? All right, let's get going then. Here is how to do number two. Number two, assume you've all read it. Abbott, Balzac, and Chang are a detective, an entomologist, and a farmer, although not necessarily in that order. Abbott was the proud mother of healthy twins yesterday. Chang has a deathly fear of insects and will not even get close enough to one to kill it if she sees it. The farmer is getting worried because she and her husband are getting old, will not be able to run the farm for too many more years, and she has no children. Chang, unmarried, especially likes to date brunettes. Match the woman with their occupations. Okay, so I'm going to fold down my paper here so I can see the question at the same time. Hopefully you did your work over here. Copy down my work right now and then just see if they match at the end. And if you did make a mistake or got stuck, you'll hopefully see where you went wrong. Okay, so we're trying to match the women with their occupations. So we've got Abbott, we've got Balzac, and we've got Chang, and we've got detective, entomologist, and farmer. I'm going to abbreviate a little bit. Now, the first thing that you might have run into is knowing what an entomologist is. So one thing that I did was I opened Google. So if I just go to my internet browser here and go to Google, and here, do you want to see my screen? Let's see. I share my screen with you so you can see this. I just type in entomologist and search what that is. It says an entomologist is a scientist who studies insects. Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, so let me bring back up the screen again. You might need to do some research on these word problems if you don't know certain things about them, and that's totally fine. All right, so Abbott was the proud mother of healthy twins yesterday. That doesn't really help us right now, at least. Chang has a deathly fear of insects. There's the insects. Will not even get close enough to one to kill it if she sees it. So Chang prob's not an entomologist. She can't touch insects. Be a pretty bad job for her. The farmer is getting worried because she and her husband are getting old, extra information, and will not be able to run the farm for too many more years. And she has no children. Oh, okay. A second ago, it said Abbott was the proud mother of healthy twins. And we just find out here that the farmer has no children. So that means Abbott's not the farmer. Chang, unmarried, especially likes to date brunettes. Okay. Now, the fact that Chang's unmarried, together with the line above that, it says the farmer is getting worried because she and her husband. So that means the farmer is married, Chang's unmarried, so Chang can't be the farmer. And you can see the domino effect happening. That's the only column. That has to be that. And there you go. So this one, hopefully you didn't find too terribly difficult. We've got that Abbott was the entomologist. We've got that Balzac was the farmer. And we've got that Chang was the detective. Okay, so there's the answer to number 6, page 2. Good. If you have questions on any of these things, just make a little note somewhere and then email me and I'll definitely meet with you to go over it again. All right, the next one I asked you to do was on page 8, number 2. And I just need to get a new piece of paper here. Hang on one second. Again, any of these questions that I had you try on your own, I'm hoping you set it up so that wherever you did the work, you did a spot where you have your work and a spot where you can show my work. However you want to make that work, I need to see both of them. So if you haven't tried this one yet, again, hit pause, do that, take a few minutes to try it. But assuming you have tried it and want to see the answer, here's page 8, number 2. Again, you should have a section with your work, and maybe you got stuck, which is fine, but I'll show you my work now. So take notes on this. It says, this is a puzzle by Pierre Berlequin, the author of several very successful puzzle books in France. Andre is a butcher and president of the Street Storekeepers Committee, which also includes a grocer, a baker, and a tobacconist. All of them sit around a table. Andre sits on Charmai's left. Burton sits at the grocer's right. Duclos, who faces Charmai, is not the baker. We want to make a drawing of who sits where. We want to know what kind of store Burton has. So let's assume they're in a circular table. Some of you might have made a square table, which technically is fine too. But if we're sitting around a table and someone's to the right and left, I think I'd rather have it be circular. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And it looks like they all have different types of stores. Since I have a circular table, it doesn't really matter where I start because I could always turn the table around if I needed to. But it says that Andre sits at Charmai's left. So you got to think of, okay, let's say Charmai is here. If Andre sits on his left, okay, here's my left hand, here's my right hand. So Charmai's left would be over here. That means Andre is over here. Burton sits at the grocer's right. I don't know who the grocer is yet. Duclos, who faces Charmai. Okay, so if Duclos is facing Charmai, he's got to be up here. He's not the baker. So that means there's only one other person left. It was Burton, so Burton has to be over here. And you could certainly make a table like the other ones, and I hope a lot of you tried that, where you made Andre, Duclos, Burton, Charmai, and butcher, grocer, baker, tobacconist. But I think you can probably do this without a table. It tells you right here that Andre is a butcher. So right here, I can fill in butcher for sure. They kind of gave you one. And then look at the rest kind of falls into place based off of your drawing. Burton sits at the grocer's right. So here's the Burton, the grocer's right. Well, if I'm Charmai, again, I'm sitting right here. Here's my left hand, here's my right hand. My right, the grocer's right, is Burton. So this is the grocer. Duclos, who faces Charmai, is not the baker. So that means the only person who could be the baker is Burton. And then the only kind of store we have left is the tobacco store. So that means Duclos is the tobacconist. Right? So I answered both questions. Make a drawing of who sits where, and your drawing, if it's this same configuration, but like maybe shifted around, like if it looks like that, Duclos and Charmai over here, Andre and Burton here, that's totally fine. It's a circular table, so I can move it any which way I want. And what kind of store does Burton have? Well, for the answer to part B, Burton has a bakery. Good? Okay. Okay, now the hardest one of any of the ones that I think I had was that third one I asked you to do. Ladies' luncheon. And maybe you didn't have enough time to work on this one, but hopefully you at least read it through and got some of it down. But on page 9, I'm going to fold this paper down again so that I can see that while I do it. It says 5 women have lunch together seated around a circular table. It's kind of like the last one. Mrs. Harris is sitting between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Ms. Norris. Miss Lee is between Ellen and Mina. Jessica and Letitia are sisters. Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Lopez on her left and Mrs. Martin on her right. Match the first names with the surnames. So it doesn't ask you for a drawing, but a drawing might help. There's a lot of information. It gets confusing here. So let's get all the first names to begin with. We've got Ellen. And we've got Jessica. And Ellen again, Mina, that's the first name. Letitia's a new one. And Ilsa's the last name. We got to match them with their last names, their surnames. So we've got Harris, Lee and Martin, Norris is a new one here. And Lee, we've already got Lopez. Okay. I'm going to draw the table down here too, because that may or may not help me. We'll see. All right, Mrs. Harris is sitting between Lee and Martin. So let's put that on the table. We've got Harris is between Lee and Martin. Although I guess that could be the other way also. We'll see if that matters. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. Well, we know Ellen cannot be Mrs. Norris then. And by the same token, Jessica can't be Mrs. Norris either. Okay. Not really sure where they are on the table. Norris has to be somewhere around here though. Ms. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. So Ellen is not Lee. Mina is not Lee. Okay. But also, okay, we'll come back to that. Jessica and Letitia are sisters. Okay, it doesn't really matter. They have different last names. Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Lopez on her left, so Ilsa is not Lopez. And Mrs. Martin on her right, so Ilsa is not Martin either. Match the first names with the surnames. Okay, so these are all last names on the table right now. I've got Lee, Harris, Martin. Who have I got left? Well, Lee, Harris, Martin, Norris, and Lopez. So we know Ilsa has Miss Lopez on her left. Okay, so Lopez on her left and Mrs. Martin on her right. So if Ilsa was right here, picture someone sitting here. Her right is Mrs. Martin. That works. Lopez on the left, so Lopez has to be up here. Okay, does that help? Well, what else do we know? We know that, let's go back through it again, because this is what I do. Once I get stuck, I start going back through it. Mrs. Harris is between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. Got that. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. Well, okay, Norris. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Uh-oh, who has to be Norris? Well, if Jessica is between, let's read that again. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Ms. Norris. Does that mean Ilsa is Norris? Looks like it has to be, doesn't it? Because we've got all the other names counted for. Okay, so I know Ilsa is Norris, which means I can X out all these. I can X out all these. So again, once I had my drawing, this right here, Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. We don't know who all these people are, but I have every last name except for Norris. So that's why Ilsa had to be Norris. Make sense? Okay, let's see if I can use any more with that. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. So Ellen could be Lopez and Lee could be Jessica, but Ellen could also be Martin, because then she'd be between Jessica Harris maybe and Ilsa Norris. We'll come back to that. Ms. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. So one of these is Ellen and one of these is Mina, which means Martin is not Ellen or Mina. Okay, everyone follow that? Mrs. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. So one of these is Ellen, one of these is Mina, which means Martin isn't one of those. Okay. Jessica and Letitia are sisters. Who cares? Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Norris on her left. Let me read that again. Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Lopez on her left. Mrs. Martin on her right. Did I mess those up? Let's read that again. I gotta think of, this is this person's left hand. This is their right hand. So I think I flip-flopped these two. Uh-oh, might have a problem. Sorry about that. Ilsa is seeing Mrs. Lopez on her left. So Lopez would have to be here. I think we have a problem. Pause for 1 second here. Okay, so I think, sorry about this. I think my drawing is messed up, but I think our table's okay. So let's try to redo this. Okay, so one more time. Mrs. Harris is sitting between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. So we'll put Harris here. She's between Lee and Martin. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. We'll deal with that later. Miss Lee is between Ellen and Mina. Okay, we'll deal with that later. Jessica and Letitia are sisters. Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Lopez on her left and Mrs. Martin on her right. So we need Mrs. Martin on Harris's, her right. So, okay, so if Mrs. Martin's on Ilsa's right, she would have to be here. So this has to be Ilsa. And here's the problem. Harris has to be up top. Because all it said was Mrs. Harris is sitting between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. If she's up top, she's still between Lee and Martin. Okay, so that's okay. And this way, Ilsa has Mrs. Lopez on her left, so we need a Lopez over here. And Mrs. Martin on her right. Okay, so now let's go back and check some things out here. Mrs. Harris is sitting between Ms. Lee and Mrs. Martin. Still true. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. Now, by the same token as before, Ilsa still has to be Norris, because that's the only name missing here. So it's Ilsa Norris. Ms. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. So Ellen and Mina are Lopez and Harris. One of them's Ellen, one of them's Mina, which means Martin is not Ellen or Mina. That's still okay. Okay, so where are we? Let's see if we can figure anything else out here. First part doesn't help. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. So here's Mrs. Norris, we know that now. Jessica is sitting between Mrs. Norris. Sorry, Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. So Ellen is either Lopez or Martin, which means Lee and Harris are not Ellen. Lee is not Ellen, and Harris is not Ellen. So it looks like Ellen Lopez is all that it could be. That's good news. Oops. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Let's start at the beginning again. Mrs. Harris is sitting between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. Fine. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. Okay, so if this is Ellen now, that means Jessica has to be Lee. So Jessica has to be Lee, which means that one's not. Oops, and then all of a sudden Mina has to be Harris. So that one's not, and Letitia has to be Martin. Okay, let's read through it one more time. That was kind of confusing. Let's make sure we got it all right. Mrs. Harris is sitting between Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Martin. True. Ellen is sitting between Jessica and Mrs. Norris. True. Ms. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. Lee is between Ellen and Mina. True. Jessica and Letitia are sisters. Sure. Ilsa is seated with Mrs. Lopez on her left. Sure. And Mrs. Martin on her right. Looks like we got it. So there's all the names and their surnames. All right, sorry for that little bobble on that one, but that's what can happen with these. And I'm kind of glad that you saw it, because when you have to deal with these on your own, that could totally happen. You might have to restart and reset. And that's kind of, unfortunately, the nature of this class. Problem-solving class means you're going to run into problems. Okay. That's the end of the logic part of this. The other thing we're going to do today is Venn diagrams. So if you need to take a break, by all means hit pause, but if you're ready to go on, let's do some Venn diagrams next. Okay, so Venn diagrams are something that most of you have probably seen at some point in your math career. It might have been a long time ago, but Venn diagrams are another way to kind of organize information. So if you look at, I'm on page 10 now, it says Venn diagrams up at the top. I'm going to do a few of these as a guide for you again, so you can just take notes on those, and I'm going to have you try some on your own also again. Number 1 says, in a class of 50 students, 18 take chorus, 26 take band, and 2 take chorus and band. How many students in the class are not enrolled in either? So what a Venn diagram is it's a way to organize the number of people in different characteristics, with different characteristics. In this case, it's chorus and band. So I'm going to put one circle, label it chorus, take another circle, label it band. 18 take chorus. Now the biggest mistake people are going to make, they're going to go and put 18 right here, and that's not true. That means there's 18 in this entire circle. 26 take band, same idea. Don't put 26 right here. That'd be wrong. Because 2 take both means they're in the overlap here. So when you take both, you can fill that in first. Now when I say 18 take chorus, again, I can't put 18 here, because then in the chorus circle, there's really a total of 20 people. Really what needs to go here is 16. Because if 18 take chorus, now there's a total of 18 in that section. Does that make sense? Same with band. If 26 total take band, what's going to go here? 24. Now the other thing that people forget sometimes is they also gave you this information. There's 50 total students. So if I do 16 plus 2 plus 24, if I add all the numbers I have so far, what's that give me? That's 12, 2, 3, 4. That's only accounting for 42 of the students. That means there's 8 out here to get me to the 50 that didn't take either. So how many are not enrolled in either? The answer to this is 8. So the Venn diagram helps you answer the final question. Let's try number 2. In a school of 320 students, 85 students are in band, 200 students are on sports teams, and 60 students participate in both. How many students are involved in either band or sports? So this one's like the last one, but now we've got 3 characteristics we're looking at. We've got band, we've got sports, and we've got, oh, there's only 2. Sorry, what am I thinking? Still just got band and sports. Okay. So by the same token as last time, I'm not going to put 85 here. I want to put 85 in this entire band circle. Same, 200 is not going to go here because 60 do both. So 60 is going to go right in the center here. Okay. So now that I know 85 are in the band, how many are left to go over here? 25, because I've already got 60 accounted for. And 200 are on sports teams. So I've already got 60 accounted for. What's going to go here? 140. Okay, so that's a total of 200. How many students are involved in either? Well, we still have to figure out what goes on the outside. There were 320 total. So see how many we've got accounted for. We've got 25, 60, and 140. What's that? 5, 12, that's 225. So if there's 320 total students, what goes out here? 95. Right? Okay, now we got to answer the question. Now this answer is also a little bit misleading. How many are involved in either sports, band, or sports? It's not an exclusive or. It's not just band or just sports. It's just they're enrolled in at least one of them. So it's basically anything in either circle. So the answer is this 225 number. It's anything that's in one of the circles or at least one of the circles. I realize the wording can be tricky there though, but that's what it means when it says either band or sports. It's not the exclusive or, which means only band or only sports. It could include these that are involved in both also. Okay, all good? Okay, I want to go on to the next page. So if you flip the page, okay, so this is page 11 now. Number 3 is what I was thinking the last one was. There's 3 situations here. A veterinarian surveys 26 of his patrons. He discovers that 14 have dogs, 10 have cats, and 5 have fish. So here, there's 3 different characteristics. So you're going to have 3 different circles. You're going to have one for dogs. You're going to have one for cats. And one for fish. So I can't put 14 here because 14 dogs means in this entire circle there's 14. Same with 10 cats, same with 5 fish. 4 have dogs and cats, but dogs and cats would be this section. There's still 2 options there. So I can't put 4 up here or down here because they're split somehow between the 2. 3 have dogs and fish, same idea. Dogs and fish would be this section. 1 has a cat and a fish. That'd be that section. Here's the important part. If no one has all 3, I can plug 0 in right away there because there's no other spot than that one that intersects all 3. So now we can kind of work backwards. So now that I've done this, 4 have dogs and cats. So here's dogs and cats. If I know there's 0 here, the 4 can go here. And 3 have dogs and fish. If I know there's 0 here, 3 has to go there. 1 has a cat and a fish. That's 1 right there. And then finally, I can go back to the start. He discovers that 14 have dogs. So how many dogs accounted for do I have so far? 4, 5, 6, 7. So 14 have dogs, which means 7 has to go here. 10 have cats. I've got 5 cats accounted for, so there's 5 left. And then finally 5 have fish, so what's going to go here? 1, because 3, 4, 5. Okay, double check. Surveys 26 of his patrons. So how many have I got? I've got a 7, a 4, a 5, a 3, a 1, and a 1. So it's 11, and 5 is 16, 19, 20, 21. So I've still got 5 people unaccounted for that must not have any of those. So how many patrons have none of these pets? The answer is 5. All right, why don't you hit pause for a second? We'll read through this one. A guidance counselor is planning schedules for 30 students. 16 want to take French, 16 want to take Spanish, 11 want to take Latin. 5 want to take both French and Latin. And of these, 3 wanted to take Spanish as well. 5 only wanted Latin. 8 only wanted Spanish. How many want French only? Okay, this is one of those ones where hit pause and divide this into 2 sections. So you do your work over here, and then when you finish that, unpause it, and I'll show you the answer and you can compare your work. Okay, so you try it, and then we'll go through it. So hit pause right now and try it. Okay, have you tried it? Okay, so I'm assuming you've got work down for your work. Here's my work. So I saw 3 different options: French, Spanish, and Latin. Okay, so we're gonna do French here, Spanish here, Latin here. The wording's a little tricky on this one. 16 want to take French, doesn't help me right away. 16 want to take Spanish, doesn't help me. 11 want to take Latin, doesn't help me. We'll have to come back to those. Here's where it gets tricky. 5 say they want to take both French and Latin. So here's French and Latin. And of those 5, 3 wanted to take Spanish as well. So what this is telling you is that 3 want to do all 3. So what has to go here? Well, 5 want to take French and Latin. So there's 2 left over here. Okay, does that make sense? 5 want only Latin. So only is a key word. So only Latin means I can put 5 right here because it's not intersecting anything else. 8 want only Spanish, so I can put 8 right there. Now I can go back to fill in those ones I didn't use at first. 16 want to take French. No, I'm still missing a spot here. 16 want to take Spanish. I'm still missing a spot there. 11 want to take Latin. That I can do. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's got to be one more here for 11. Okay, now I can do the Spanish one. And 16 wanted to take Spanish. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 4 left to make 16. And then for French, another 16. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which means there has to be 7 up there. There were 30 total students, so how many have I got? I've got 11 and 8, that's 19, 20, 25, 30. That's all of them. So there's nothing out here. They have to take something. So how many students want French only? So in the French circle, not intersecting anything else, the answer is 7. Okay, so a little bit trickier. Hopefully you see why the answer is what it is if you had any issues. All right, these last couple ones should go a little bit quicker. Number 5, Stephen asked 100 coffee drinkers whether they would like cream or sugar in their coffee. The Venn diagram's already made down here. How many like cream? Don't say 16. For part A, it's anything in the cream circle. By the way, I'm on page 12 if you haven't gotten that. So this should be 36. There's a total of 36 who like cream. How many like sugar? Well, again, what's the total here? The total in the sugar circle is 55. Here it gets more specific. Sugar, but not cream. So yes in the sugar circle, can't be cream. That's another way of saying sugar only, so 35. Cream but not sugar, same idea. In the cream circle, not the sugar, so that's 16. That's cream only. Cream and sugar is always the intersection, the middle, so that's 20. And remember, or, this isn't exclusively or, it's either or, so any of those. So that's 16 and 20, there's 36, plus another 35, 71. Okay, why don't you try number 6? So hit pause and give that a shot. Ready to see the answer? Again, I want to see your work and my work. We asked 60 students whether they listen to 2 popular radio stations, WROK and WRAP. So I have to make one again. So WROK, WRAP. 23 listen to WROK, 18 listen to WRAP, 8 listen to both. So 8 goes in the center. 23 listen to this, so 23 minus the 8 would mean there'd be 15 over here. 18, listen to WRAP, we've got 8 already, so there's 10 more over here. There were 60 total students, so how many have I got accounted for? We've got 15 and 8 is 23. This is 33. I gotta get all the way to 60, so there's 27 left over. Okay, so now I can answer these questions. WROK, but not WRAP. So it's WROK only, that should be 15. WRAP, but not WROK. WRAP only is 10. And neither would be outside the circles, so that's 27. Okay, we got one more page for today and we're done. Page 13. Said Oshkosh did a survey, a study of the colors used in African national flags. He found that 38 have red, 20 have blue, 13 have both, 8 have neither. So we can do this one pretty quickly together. Got 2 circles. We've got red. We've got blue. 38 have red, can't use that yet. 20 have blue, can't use that yet. 13 have both, we can do that. And they nicely told you 8 have neither. So 8 goes out here. Now back if 38 have red, if I've already got 13 accounted for, how many are left? 25. 20 have blue, so what goes here? 7. And then red but not blue. Okay, red but not blue would be just the 25 number. Blue but not red would be the 7 number, blue only. How many were included? How could you get that? You have to add up all the numbers in the whole Venn diagram. So this would be 25 plus 13 plus 7 plus 8. So that's 8. What's that? Let me see, 10, 18, 5, that's 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 53. Okay, this last one I want you to try again. So the Venn diagram is already made for you. See if you can use the Venn diagram to answer the question. So hit pause, write your answers down, and then when I go over it, write my answers down and see if they were the same. All right, you ready to see it? Here we go. Kroner asked 100 adults whether they studied French, Spanish, or Japanese in school. According to the Venn diagram, how many had studied Spanish? So you have to add up anything in this whole Spanish circle. It's a bad circle, but you get the idea. So that's 52 and 11, 63. Spanish, but not French. Okay, so in the Spanish circle, but not the French circle. So that still includes these two, 32 and 7, 39. Japanese, but not French. Here's the Japanese circle. We don't want French. So that's those two, 9 and 7, 16. French and Spanish is anything where French and Spanish are overlapping. So it's not just 20, because it doesn't say just French and Spanish. It's anything that overlap those two circles. So it should be 24. 20 is common for a lot of people to say, but that's not quite right. French or Spanish means it's anything in this French circle number or anything in this Spanish circle number. So for French or Spanish, I have to add 23, 20, 4, 5, 7, and 32. Basically anything but these 9. So I'm thinking it should come out to be 91 since it's 100 total adults and I don't have the 9 here. Let's see. 9 and 9 is 18 and 3 is 21 with a 2. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yup, 91. And then for the last one, French and Spanish, but not Japanese. So French and Spanish was this section, but now it says not Japanese. So that takes out that circle. And I can say 20. Okay, so you can see the hardest thing with these Venn diagrams is probably the wording. And we're actually going to spend some more time on Venn diagrams in our next meeting together tomorrow in the Zoom meeting. But the last thing you need to do today is on page 17 in your packet. You're doing just this question, sing it again, Sam, and it's a Venn diagram. So before you send me all the notes that you took today, I need you to try this one. I'm not going to tell you the answers. We'll go over them tomorrow. But give this one your best shot. Make a Venn diagram. See if you can answer the question. Once you've done that, then you're officially done with today's work. So take pictures of all of your notes from today and send me it to them in an email, and I'll check you off, and you'll be done. Okay? Email me if you have any questions or concerns, and we can certainly meet and go over them. Okay, good luck. See you tomorrow.